It's U of L Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
And welcome to U of L Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. Hope we're going to have an interesting show today. In the next half hour, we're going to be talking about research at the university, great students, all things good at the University of Louisville. So what have we got coming up on the show? Well, coming up a little later, have you thought about becoming a nurse? Maybe you're 40 years old working in a job you really don't like, but always wanted to try nursing, but you're worried that since you didn't have any schooling or training in healthcare, a nursing career was out of the question. Well, that is not true. A new master's program at U of L is just what you need, and we'll tell you all about it. We'll also talk to Megan Seldon, who's a former Ballard Bruin and one of U of L's 14 Fulbright scholars. But first, a couple of U of L geography professors have received a big grant to do some mapping in underdeveloped countries, but it's not the type of mapping you think of when you talk about a geography professor. It's human mapping. And joining me are Forrest Stevens and Andrea Gauhgan from the geography department at the University of Louisville. Welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about this project you two are working on. I call it human mapping. You can call it whatever you want. There's probably some better term for it. So tell us a little bit about this grant you've received and what you're going to be doing.
The grant is given to us by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the goal of it is to scale up some work that we've already been doing associated with a project called World Pop. The goal is really to take census data, which is how we typically count where people are, and we do that by putting in a spot on the surface of the earth, and usually a box or a polygon or some area, and counting up the number of people in it. But the problem is that is usually or sometimes just not fine enough data to support different types of work like disaster and relief management, epidemiology, disease modeling, that type of thing. And so the goal is to take that count and break it down to smaller and smaller areas. And make that data more useful to people working in across a variety of different projects.
So Andrea, what is this World Pop? What is it?
What is it?
What is it?
It's a group of people comprised of Forrest and myself and some grad students at U of L, but working in collaboration with a larger contingent at University of Southampton and another colleague.
Southampton, I assume, is in England, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Southampton,
Just checking.
England. And another colleague in Belgium.
Okay.
And Forrest and I started working on the project actually when it was not sort of this collective, overarching term of World Pop for the entire world, but was just called AfriPop. And Dr. Andrew Tatum, who's sort of the head of the group, was at University of Florida, which is where we both did graduate school.
Okay.
And so we started working on the project then, myself as a postdoc and Forrest as a research assistant, because Andy had just gotten funding to extend AfriPop to Asian countries, and so that got termed Asia Pop.
Okay.
And so we started.
So they decided to go with the World Pop to get to the.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying to break this down for those of us who really don't understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
Census data. There's census data out there for most countries, correct?
Yes, there's census
Okay.
data, but the census data might not be very recent, and it might be very coarse. So, like what Forrest was just saying, when you think of an area of people,
Like what? Give me a for
So let's
instance.
think about the Western U.S.
Okay.
So very, very large, sparsely populated areas, but you have some parts of the Western U.S. that have cities, and then large swaths with no people. And so a census tract might include areas with no people, and then areas that actually have people living there.
Bozeman, Montana. Okay.
Yeah, something like that. And the World Pop project will take that information that's contained. So in a census tract, if there's 100 people, for simplicity's sake, and 90 of those people live in that one little city area, and 10 people are spread out in the other areas, then what the World Pop project does is it creates a map that concentrates the people in the city area and distributes the other 10 people in the rest of the area, versus having just the census tract that says 100 people at this spatial resolution, or like a coarser scale. You have a map that says there's 90 people in the densely quote unquote populated city area, and 10 people spread out in the surrounding rural area.
In this workforce that you're going to be doing to map this, what countries and what parts of the world are you concentrating on, and why are you looking in those areas?
So previously, with the world under the World POP umbrella, we've been mapping Africa, Asia, and South America, or Latin America. And with this new funding from the Gates Foundation, we're scaling that up to be a global product. So all countries will be covered and over a longer time period at annual sort of temporal resolution. So the idea is to provide a much more complete data set to support both the Foundation's work and others. These data will be open and freely available.
So in layman's terms, maybe it's to provide finer data for who's living in specific areas around the world. Is that correct? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's
better data than you'd get from a census data and from 10 years ago.
Exactly. And as Andrea was saying earlier, the real problem with many census data sets and sources is that censuses haven't been done in a long period of time, or when they were done, there might be errors and inaccuracies. And in that case, some of this modeling will be able to fill gaps and increase our ability to actually estimate where people are at today and into the future.
Because they may, since the census, they may have moved, or you've got a lot of. Look at what's happened in Syria. I mean, you've got a lot of people that are no longer in Syria. Yeah. So is that for instance?
I think actually a good example of how the data can be used was a year ago now. There was a huge earthquake in Nepal, and we got asked to produce a updated data set of population. And so we took recent census data from Nepal, and we created new maps that showed where people were living. And then those data sets immediately were being distributed and used for disaster and relief efforts to identify concentrations of high population densities to distribute help and services after that earthquake. And so the data gets used like that all over the world.
We're talking with Forrest Stevens and Andrea Gauhgan from the University of Louisville, and they are geography professors, and they've got this project going on right now where they're, and going forward, where they're working for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and doing some work for them on this human mapping. And just to follow up on what you said, Andrea, so really the idea is that you want to have the best information possible when there's a human disaster, a flood, a tornado, something like that, so you can quickly identify where are the places where the people are that need the help, so you don't spend your resources sending them to some place that there's nobody there anymore, right? Is that a fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment, I think. I think you could call it, if you want, you can call it human population modeling, human population maps. Some of the other types of data that the World POP Project produces is sex and gender specific maps. And those kind of maps where you can identify, say, children less than the age of 5 or elderly populations that are female or male, those kind of maps can be used in some of the eradication efforts for malaria and polio and the such that the Gates Foundation really want these annual time step maps for. So there's a lot of different type of applications that the maps can be used for.
Does it go by area for us? Do you look at like a 100 square mile area in blocks? Is that how you define the populations in those areas, or how do you work? How do you do this technically?
It's really driven by the census data itself, and we take those census counts, and within each census tract, is what we would call them in the U.S., but these administrative units where people are counted, we look at what is in there in terms of roads, road density, how much area within that is built up. Housing, exactly. And then create a statistical model to relate what is inside that census unit with however many people we've counted there. Gotcha. And that model is then used to sort of estimate at larger scales, where people are.
What do you two think is the most exciting thing about this research for the general public and the population of the world, folks on the ground? What's the most exciting thing, and how's it going to benefit them?
I think to support those types of efforts that better concentrate or allow us to better use money to support disaster relief development. disease eradication, those types of human benefits that can directly impact lives and health for people around the world. I mean, that's what's exciting to us, and being able to participate in research that has this really tangible application to benefit people. I think that's what gets me excited.
I mean, another example of how the data gets used, you can think about climate change. You can think about sea level rise and about where most of the human population is concentrated, which is along seaboards. And, understanding where population is located relevant to different types of extreme weather events or natural disasters or disease-driven issues, like any number of those things. It's quite helpful to be able to have data sets like what WorldPop creates.
And this project is looking out to the year 2030, correct? So you will take into account global warming, disease that we may not even know about yet, right? Is that a fair assessment?
Population change and where people are living now is not necessarily reflective of where they will live tomorrow or 10 years from now. That's also a huge component and aspect of the work.
Very good. All right. Well, tell Bill and Melinda that I said hello, will you? The Gates family. I'm sure they want to send a couple dollars to the UofL. UofL Today with Mark Hebert if they want to sponsor my show. Okay.
No problem.
All right. Well, congratulations on the grant you got, and keep doing good work. With me now, two folks from the nursing program at the University of Louisville. Diane Chlebowy, who is a professor and also a coordinator of the MEPN program, MEPN, and also Meredith McGrew, who is a student in the MEPN program, MEPN. And you were going to tell us what MEPN stands for, aren't you, Diane?
I can certainly do that. MEPN stands for Master's Entry into Professional Nursing. And that's a program that we've started at the School of Nursing.
All right. And you're the coordinator of that program.
That is correct.
And Meredith, you're a student.
I am, yes.
Correct. All right. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? What is it, the Master's and Master's Entry into Professional Nursing program? What's the thing that makes that program any different than a different nursing program at UofL?
Exactly. Our students who are admitted to our MEPN program are students that have degrees in other fields. So they have a bachelor's degree. Some of our students even have master's degrees. And students are admitted to the program and go through pre-licensure coursework as well as some master's graduate coursework, and graduate in 2 years with a bachelor's of nursing and a master's of nursing in science.
So are these folks, well, maybe Meredith's the one that asked this question too, are these people that have jobs in other fields, may have been out of college for 10 years and decide they want to be nurses? Is that what this is for?
Yeah, both. Mm-hmm. We have a couple people that have been working for 10 years plus, and then also some that have come, well, especially education. We have a couple teachers and also a librarian. So it's an interest. Yeah, it's
a nurse, huh?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and somebody with a bachelor's degree in advertising. So it's all across the field.
So what about you? What did you go into something else and then decide to get into nursing and get into this program, or did you want to be a nurse all the way along?
No. So I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Louisville in psychology, and I took some time off and served in AmeriCorps as well in Charleston, South Carolina, and that's where I really found my passion for service and wanted to meld that with a healthcare setting. So I really felt like I wanted to progress my education, and nursing was a great fit. So
you come back to Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
You enroll in this MEPN program.
Yeah.
And were you able to meet whatever standards there are? Maybe Diane can talk about that. What do they have to be able to do before they get into this program, to enroll in this program, if anything? What is that?
Sure. Yeah, there's a couple of prerequisites that I had to do before enrolling. So I had to take like another year's worth of school. So Diane, if you want to speak to the...
But they have to have a bachelor's degree. Anything else that they need to do before they get into this 2-year program?
Basically, it's an application process, and we review the applications. And as Meredith has said, our students will have a bachelor's degree in another field. Some have the master's, and they apply. And as Meredith has said, they will take a few additional courses in preparation for some pathophysiology is a requirement.
Yeah,
pharmacology,
sure it is.
Absolutely.
Anatomy and physiology.
Well, I know what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. All the sciences those courses must have taken prior to admission to our program.
Okay, that's Diane Chlebowy. She is a coordinator of the MEPN program at the University of Louisville. We're also talking with Meredith McGrew, who's a second-year student in the program. So you're about to get out of the program then if you're second year, right? Because this is a 2-year program. How close are you to graduating?
I'm about halfway through, so I have another year ahead of me. So I have one under my belt and another to go. So.
And then what do you want to do? What do you want to do with this nursing degree once you get out?
Good question. I'm interested in working in the hospital setting for a while, but I'd like to do more community work and use kind of the leadership component and research that's a big part of the MEPIN program. So it's definitely preparing nurse leaders in a different environment, and you have a lot more holistic understanding because of the master's courses, as you know, the way that the healthcare is as a whole. So.
Right. And Diane, what do you find from most of these folks? Are they students who go directly from their bachelor's degree into this program, or is it mainly folks that have been out in the world like Meredith and then come back?
Sure. Actually, our students do both. Many of our students have earned, for example, a bachelor's in biology and are interested in applying and moving into the MEPIN program. Other students we have who've been out actually working in their careers for quite a while, for a number of years, and just really want that career change and are very interested, in nursing. So really our group, is comprised of students, new graduates, as well as those who've been out in the field for a number of years.
And is this a full-time program where you have to go to school all day and you don't have time for another job, or have you got folks who are working perhaps a part-time job and also going to school?
Mm-hmm. It is a full-time program. Many of our students, Meredith and I were just talking, they're just amazing students, and many of them are in our full-time program, but in addition, they, for example, maybe want some clinical experience, so they are working maybe a few hours, but very challenging to do that, but many of them are very successful in doing both. But a full-time program, a 6-semester program, and as Meredith has said, a 2-year commitment.
And you're taking summer classes as well, right? Because that to go straight through, is that right?
Yes.
Taking summer classes?
Yes.
So you're looking forward to taking summer classes, or you just as soon have the summer off like you were when you were an undergrad?
I am actually. This summer is going to be 2 of my biggest interests, which is community and psychology, psych nursing. So that's what my background's in. So I'm actually really excited for the summer.
Is there a shortage of nurses these days? There used to be. Is there still a shortage of nurses?
There is a nursing shortage. It really depends on where you're looking, like our graduates for positions. But nationally, we are challenged right now with more of a nursing shortage than we've had, in prior years. So yes.
So when you have folks come back and say, I was working in a factory for 10 years, but I really want to be a nurse. So what should I focus on, and what should I aim for when I get out of this 2-year MEPIN program? Mm-hmm. What do you tell them? What are the particular fields in nursing where there are openings?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think for our graduates, they certainly, at time of graduation, will be eligible, and they will sit for the national licensure exam. So they will first take the NCLEX exam. And at that time, many of our graduates, I foresee, may want to get into practice, work in the healthcare system in various settings. It may be the hospital, it may be the community setting, but the program really, we prepare leaders in nursing practice. So we believe, again, Merit is part of our first cohort, but we believe that many of these students will move on and assume leadership positions in healthcare.
How many students are in the program right now?
We currently have 13 students who were admitted as our first cohort, and that was May of 2015.
So this is a brand new program.
Yes.
Brand new program, and we will be admitting 30 students to begin in May 2016 in just a few weeks. So we are increasing our number because there has been very high interest in the program itself.
Why do you think there's been such interest in the program?
The University of Louisville, our program is the first in Kentucky to offer the master's entry program. So there is interest, and Meredith and I were actually just talking about this, that many of our students have bachelor's degrees and really want to move forward in their career, and having a master's degree at time of completion is of interest to them.
Mm-hmm.
Meredith, with the 12 other students that you talked to, you said there was a librarian and some others. So I guess you get to talk a little bit about what your prior career was.
Yeah.
What do folks say and give as a reason that they said, I'm just going to give that up and I want to be a nurse? What is it? What are some of the interesting things that folks have told you?
I guess like that question honestly doesn't come up that specifically.
Really?
Yeah, because we're all kind of there because we have this passion to kind of like help. I mean, it sounds generic, but to help others. And I think that in their previous careers, they were doing the same thing. But I think that nursing is a lot more promising because there's a lot more opportunity. I think the flexibility of nursing, you can work in a lot of different settings, a lot of different hours, and the pay is really great. And I think that attracts a lot of people, and they also get to serve other people in a way that they find interesting. And the thing about nursing is that there's always room for opportunity and growth and further knowledge. And so I think that attracts a lot of people as well.
And what would you tell other potential students or other folks that are thinking about going on this track about the University of Louisville? I mean, this is a brand new program. I'm guessing there were probably some fits and starts in trying to get things together. What would you tell them about the program at UofL as you've seen so far?
Yeah, we were actually just talking about this as well because I feel like I'm in a unique position because I have experience from the University of Louisville as a bachelor's student. So I can say from my previous department to the nursing school is set apart in the sense that all of the professors care about their students. I've never met one that was unsupportive, that ever didn't answer a question, didn't answer an email. It's very different at the School of Nursing, and I think that is what really sets it apart. Even with fits and starts, it's really just the collaborative environment. They've asked us nothing but what our feedback is, how can we do better, and there's a lot of dialogue.
Gotcha. All right, Diane, so if somebody wants to get a hold of you and sign up or enroll in the MEPIN program, how do they do that?
Yes, I think they can certainly call the main number at the School of Nursing and or email on the website. We have all of our contact information, so we welcome those questions and inquiries.
All right, very good. And enrollment ends when for the coming fall semester? Mm-hmm. When does that close out?
We are admitting students once a year. So we are admitting new cohorts that will begin in the summer of each year, which would be May. So the application process, begins really, we encourage our students to begin applying in the fall, right. With review of applications the early part of each year.
All right, very good. Diane Chlebowy, Meredith McGrew from School of Nursing, thanks for being on. Appreciate it. This year, UofL has 14 Fulbright Scholars. That ties the record we had back in 2010, 2011 of 14 Fulbright Scholars. They're a very prestigious scholarship for students who recently graduated from the University of Louisville. Very proud of them. And that number, 14, will likely make us among the top Fulbright-producing public institutions in the country this year. So I interviewed a number of our Fulbright winners, and here is an interview with one of them. With me now is Megan Seldon. She is a Fulbright Scholar from the University of Louisville. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You got a big smile on your face for some reason. Why is that?
I am so excited. I'm going to be working and living in Malaysia for 10 months, and I just cannot wait. Actually, last night I was going through all the local cuisine and looking at all the different types of food. It's really multicultural, so it just got a lot of diversity, and I'm super excited. Yeah.
And what are you going to be doing in Malaysia?
I applied for an ETA, which is English Teaching Assistantship. So I will be helping in a high school classroom teaching English. But part of applying for an ETA, they want you to do community outreach and really be an ambassador and be involved in the community. So I will be in rural Malaysia and working with hopefully a bunch of different farms and really getting involved in the rural community. Malaysia is interesting because the capital city in Kuala Lumpur is really investing in technology, and even though it's agriculturally based now, there's a huge shift occurring to larger industry, and so the farming and different aspects of farming are sort of shifting to bigger companies, so it'll be really good to work with keeping sustainable practices and helping local farmers maintain their land and sort of stay in the business.
It sort of sounds like the United States when farms started getting taken over by larger companies and those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully we can help them be a little bit better prepared and learn from our own processes and some of the countries that are already really developed and have huge agribusinesses.
When you say you're going to be teaching at a school in rural Malaysia, what does rural mean? How small of a village or town are you going to be in?
I don't know my placement yet, but on the application, one of the reasons actually I applied for Malaysia, it says there's no guarantee of electricity or running water. And I was so excited for it. I've worked on a few farms in the past, and like I go without my phone for a few months or without internet for a few months, like in rural places. And I really love it. It's just like a simpler life and, you know, down to earth.
I just want the listeners to understand, we're talking to, what are you, 21 years old?
22.
22 years old, and you're excited to be without your phone for 2 months?
Oh, 10 months, yeah. I'm so excited, yeah.
I don't think there's another 22-year-old in Louisville who would say those exact same words. I can't imagine it.
I'm glad, I know, it works for me.
It works.
I'm happy to be the person that got the Fulbright then.
What's your major, Megan?
I'm a double major in English literature and humanities, and I also have minors in art history and history.
Okay, so you've got 3 different degrees you're pursuing here, right?
Yeah, a few, yeah.
What do you attribute your ability to win this Fulbright to? Were there things at the University of Louisville that molded you and got you ready for this?
Absolutely.
Award?
Yeah, definitely the professors that I've had and my advisors have had a lot of people really looking out for me my whole time in this university, and I had multiple professors that not only wrote me letters of recommendation, but helped me with editing my essays and really took the time out of their day to read my essays, go over them with me. And honestly, I wouldn't have applied without, you know, the support of my professors or advisor to begin with. It was really sort of their words of encouragement that got me to really consider applying.
Other than doing without your phone for several months, what else are you most excited about going to Malaysia and this trip?
I'm just so excited for all of the opportunity it offers. I've never been to Asia at all, or a country similar to Malaysia. It's so multicultural. It has high populations of Indian, Chinese, Malay, like there are still people from Dutch and British colonial settlement. Mm-hmm. So it's super, super multicultural. They celebrate Buddhist, Hindu, Islamic holidays. All of them are considered national holidays because there are so many people of each religion. The food is just as diverse. I'm just so excited to really experience and get to be a witness to so many other people's lives.
And what are you apprehensive about?
Well, when I was first applying, I was really apprehensive. Just like 10 months in a different place is obviously going to be a bit of a shock. But at this point, I'm just accepting it. It's going to be an adventure. So I don't know. We'll just see as it goes.
We'll see as it goes. It ought to be terrific.
Yeah, it should be.
And congratulations
again.
Thank
you so much.
All right, that'll about do it for our half-hour show here, U of L Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. And as we wrap this up, we always try and give a little bit of trivia or just a tidbit about the University of Louisville that you may like to know about. So it's our Did You Know segment for today. So did you know that members of the Brandeis School of Law's class of 2016 performed over 9,800 hours of public service? 6 graduating law students performed more than 300 public service hours apiece, including David Cutt, who had 716 hours of community service when he graduated from the law school. Very impressive. All right, you can find the podcast of this show on SoundCloud, Metro TV, and KET3. Carry the video versions of this program throughout the week. And I'll see you Monday morning on WHAS 11 on Great Day Live around 9:30 or so in the morning, where I'll have another story about something cool at the University of Louisville. So thanks for listening to U of L Today with Mark Hebert, and go Cards.